Okay, thanks for being on today. Transfer update, like I promised on Saturday. Jaquay Hubbard is here and currently practicing. Zach Dobson is here and currently practicing. Tony Fields is here. He is still going through the COVID transition process from out of state. He's got to quarantine, then test. As soon as he clears that, then he'll be ready to go. But he's here. But since he traveled from Arizona, where he's from, we're waiting for him to go through that process. But that's kind of an update that I promised for you on that. We are missing several guys in practice right now. Nothing due to COVID-related issues. We've got a stomach bug that's going around, so gastrointestinal. So we're down some guys. We're still doing split squad practices. We'll probably do that through the end of the week. Make a decision on Saturday toward the end. A lot of team today, situational work. Well, basically what we're doing is we're going Monday and Tuesday and Friday are normal, what we would call normal practices, with a lot of group and individual work. And then Wednesday is mostly a team situational type of practice, still not tackling to the ground, thudding. And then Saturday, going in the stadium and trying to make it as game-like as we possibly can. Here's the guys I thought did well today. Defensively first, Sean Mahone. Had a slow start to camp, but he's really picked it up. Had a nice pick today on an opening drive. Daryl Porter's a guy that's had 3 consecutive days, and because we've got some of those guys out with the stomach bug in the defensive back room, he's getting pressed in duty, and he's having to go line up and play Sam James and people like that on a every rep basis. And for a true freshman, I think he's holding his own. So I've been impressed with him. I love how he competes. He's a student of the game. Dylan Tonkrete has had 2 consecutive days where he's made nice plays. I think he's starting to get a feel in the defense and fit. He's miles ahead of where he was last year at this time. And then Keem Messador, as a true freshman, he shows up. He's gifted. He's a guy that will definitely help us this year. I'm excited about what his future looks like even after this year. Offensively, these are the guys. Sam James had a slow start to practice, but I think a sign of maturity is last year, if he had a slow start, it really probably would have affected the rest of his day or his game. This time he bounced back, had a couple touchdowns. Chase Barron has been consistent. And then John Hughes is really getting better. We need him too. He's playing right tackle for us, and he had a good day today, had a really good day yesterday, and he is much improved. Tony Mathis had a nice day today. He's a guy, the more repetitions he gets, the better. He's getting a better feel. He was more decisive today. Lorenzo Dorr is a guy that has played a lot of special teams here. He had a nice day. And then Bryce Wheaton. Bryce Wheaton, really, I think we're in 8 days. He's had 7 really positive and 1 not so good. But today he had a couple touchdowns and made some nice plays, and it would be huge for us if he could continue to grow because he's really a talented guy. And in special teams, Evan Staley, we had 2 subpar days in a row, but bounced back today and really played well. And like I've said this numerous times, is I think he is going to have a really bounce back year, really big bounce back year. And that's my expectations for him. Rest of the week looks like this. We'll have a recovery day tomorrow. We'll have meetings, walkthroughs tonight, recovery day tomorrow, normal practice on Friday, and then Saturday we'll have game-like. We'll make a decision whether we'll scrimmage or not, but it's going to be as game-like as we can in the stadium. So with that, I've got a little shorter time today. So with that, I'm going to open it up with questions.
Yeah, just a reminder to use the raise hand feature. Take the first question from Coach Hunter. Go ahead, Greg.
Too early to start to determine who can play, but just year 2 and then everything that's happened this summer, do you think you play more true freshmen this year or less than last year?
Yeah, Greg, I don't have the numbers that we played last year. My assumption is we'll probably play more, just because mentally they're ready, and we're gonna have to be deeper. That's one of the – there's a lot of negatives doing the split squad, but one of the real positives is those guys that are young in our program are getting a lot more reps than they normally would. And so they're going to be more ready to play than in a normal situation. But I just think of the nature of what we're dealing with, because everybody talks about if you have positive tests and contact tracing, that's true. But anytime you get any kind of illness you've got to get tested, because there's so many symptoms of what could be COVID. And we're doing everything we possibly can from a safety standards and protocols, and we're taking precautions. So if guys have those type of symptoms on their questionnaire they fill out, then we're getting them tested, and you got to wait for the results. So I just think the way the year is going to be structured is I think more young people will play than ever.
Next question from Alan Taylor. Alan, trying to mute you. Go ahead.
Alan, man, I thought you were down in Florida.
You know, I still like to come back up here when it's nice and cool. So,
Welcome back.
I know you were taking a tack last year of maybe trying to get guys to do more in-person classes, and obviously then this hits, and I guess you guys are right back. Is pretty much the whole team for safety purposes and bubble purposes online this fall?
We are. Yeah, we are, and it's kind of unfortunate, but it's something we have to do. I like having our guys part of really part of the campus community. I think it's good to interact with students in a normal setting, because what I think it does is students want to support people they know, and if they know our players, they see them on campus, whether it's in class or at the whether it's rec center or where they eat, all those places, if they see them there and they know them and they want to come support them. But this year, in a lot of ways, it's going to be unique. And there's some upper level classes that are only offered in person right now, that some of our graduate student kids will have to go to in person. But for the most part, we are almost entirely online.
Thank you, Neal.
Go ahead, Kevin Kinder.
Coach, you mentioned last week that you only had about 100 in camp right now rather than the max 110. Does that philosophy carry over when classes start? Do you think you'll approach the 125? And I know you had some walk-ons that had, committed to you that aren't there yet. Do you have a plan in place for that yet?
We do. And we're really just taking everything kind of on that scenario as far as roster kind of week to week. I learned back in the beginning of this, not to long range plan too much. And so what our thought is if things continue to go well, then we expand. And we're going to lose some guys too, because as you go through this and I've told our players this, it's a right to be on the football team. It's a right, and you can lose that right. And now the trust within teammate to teammate is so important. And when these students are coming back, you saw some of the reports of the house parties and things like that. Our guys got to be smart. And because anytime that they choose to do something, then they're bringing that back to their team. And so if it gets to a point where we have guys that are repeat offenders or can't follow the protocols, then they can't be a part of this. And so, but we're going to make those decisions week to week, Kevin, and as long as we continue to stay, relatively virus free, then we'll continue to add those guys to our roster because we need them from a practice standpoint.
All right. Next question from Mike Kazaza. Mike, we always have this issue. There you go.
Every time. Similar to that, Neal, you said you didn't want to interfere 24/7 in your students when they weren't on campus, and maybe it's a little bit different now, but realistically, what can you tell guys to do? Do you have them police themselves? Is it, hey, just come to and from the building and really a regimented life? Like, how do you handle that? Because it is important. Yeah,
it's critical. It really is. And you're asking them to make mature decisions. And a lot of these guys are not to that point in their life. So you're trying to coach them. You really try to get the veterans to help them understand why it's so important. I talk COVID-related issues. I give examples. We send them articles. I talk it every single day that I have them. I really do. And they do police themselves because we've got a large number of our guys that want to play. And if there's people on our football team that are interfering, then they are reporting. And so I think that's positive. Is it going to be 100%? No. Are we going to have some issues? Absolutely. That's dealing with this age group. That's going to occur. But we've got some ways to monitor it the best we can. And I hope we can mitigate the effects when students come back as much as we possibly can. But I think every program, not just football, I think every sport that's going to play is going to deal with those type of issues.
Go ahead, Greg.
Coach, you've mentioned a number of times you've done a lot of thud, haven't done a whole lot of full tackling to the ground. Concerns with that you haven't done that enough? Obviously, you still got weeks to go before your game. So just your thoughts about how you have to get ready to be physical.
So going into this, my initial plan coming off those OTAs was to stay in this split squad really for about 2 weeks. And then next week is really start getting into the physical portion of what we need to get done in a fall camp. I wanted to make sure that our precautions and our procedures, everything were working like we thought they would, and they are so far. I wanted to make sure those were being followed. I think it's important to learn some lessons from some of these NFL teams and some of these college teams that started that thought they were going to play a week 0 game. We've done that. We've been in communication with those college teams and those NFL teams, and we've learned some ways that they were able to mitigate and some mistakes they made and that we won't repeat. And so really next week is when we've got to get into the physical portion of our fall camp without a question. We can't go into a game on the 12th or the 26th and not tackle it all or not have physical type practices.
Go ahead, Carly.
Hey, Coach. One of the transfers you mentioned, Zach Dobson, definitely seems like a special guy, obviously, with the story with his brother, but just wondering how that connection formed and what made you want to go out and get him.
Well, I think he's dynamic with the ball in his hands. There's some things he's got to get better. I think with the limited opportunities he had over the last couple of years, I think he made the most of it. And once he made his decision, one of my mentors really in the coaching profession is Tony Franklin, who's the offensive coordinator there at Middle Tennessee and has done an excellent job. And, he didn't want him to leave Middle at all, but once he made that decision, he really believed in the kid, thought he was special. And so those guys that are dynamic with the ball in their hands, we were limited with those type of kids in our program. And we feel like that not only offensively, but in the return game, he can add something to us.
Go ahead, Alan Saunders.
Yeah, 2 questions if I can. One, I just want to ask about Jaquay Hubbard and what you've seen from him so far. And then also with the split squads, how's that impacting evaluation when you have guys that are battling for a spot that may be on different spots? So you're seeing them perform against different defenses.
Mm-hmm. So I'll answer the second question first. So we're logging repetitions and we're working situations. As far as true evaluations, those when we start working as a full unit is when we'll get our clear evaluations. I think the way I've been operating, guys, is we have plenty of time. We play on the 12th. We don't play again until the 26th. We have plenty of time to get our work in. We'll be ready to play when that time comes. But our true evaluations really won't start until we get into where we're practicing with the whole team. As far as Jaquay Hubbard goes, he's a guy that's long. I like the way he practices. He practices really hard. He's hungry. And so he's a guy that I'm looking forward to seeing how he grows.
All right, Mike.
Hey, speaking of more time, you all don't start the semester until next week. It would have been today, I believe. So you don't have that 20-hour rule for another 7 days. Does that give you more liberties to do things, or you can only do so much at this point? You don't want to overdo it.
Yeah, I think that's probably where I'm at. Is I like the schedule we're on. We're getting a lot done. Basically working 5 out of the 7 days. Practicing in the mornings, which I like during this time of year, and then getting some meetings and walkthroughs in the afternoon. And so basically you install and go over situational football in the morning. You meet about it, and you come back and you hit corrections on the same stuff you covered in the morning. So you're correcting that, and then you start it again the next day. And so we'll roll on until the first day of class, and then toward the end of, I guess early part of next week, we'll put together a school schedule. Because with most of our guys online, it's going to be different. And so we got to figure out when the best time to practice is and work our because our kids will still have academic appointments and they obviously have classes, which I know you teach, so you know that. But as far as some of the online classes meet at certain times, and some of them are just kind of do your assignments on your own, but we'll still have tutors and those type of things. But we'll continue to operate like we are, and then we'll make some adjustments, and there'll be some minor adjustments. We can't have the walkthroughs and things like that once school starts.
Go ahead, Keenan.
Two questions, Neal. I know you said true evaluations won't start till you're working with the whole team, but anything new on your quarterbacks? And secondly, I know you mentioned Scotty Young, and he was applying for a waiver. Anybody else in that boat?
So, no, I don't, Keenan, on the waiver deal. I can give you a long answer, but I don't. I really don't have any updates on that. And honestly, I haven't checked on it in a few days. So try to do that next time we talk. The quarterbacks, there's been some good and some bad. I thought that both of them started slow today, but recovered and made some nice plays down. We got to do a better job of starting fast. I've been pretty pleased with them. Garrett Green is a guy I'm excited about as well. He's got different level of energy, and it's contagious. But no, I'm pleased with both of them. I think that from understanding situational football and understanding what we're trying to do offensively, both in the pass game and the run game, I'm pleased with both of them.
Go ahead, Greg.
Coach, your offensive line, how much have you had? Maybe you haven't appointed a first offensive line, but you need that group to get cohesive. So do what could potentially be your starters work together a lot, or is that still something that you're going to do starting next week or down the road?
The way we got the O-line is basically got an older group and a younger group. And so we're kind of working those guys in these split squads. I think that we'll start mixing and matching some once we get into more we're practicing as a whole team. But I think it's really the offensive line has been one of the biggest benefactors. I think we talked about this on Saturday as well, is because all those guys are getting a ton of work. And the thing defensively that's really good, it's a struggle to move the ball, especially run it sometimes, because we give so many different fronts and we move our defensive line. But it also logs a lot of really good reps for the O-line, and they're learning. And we really think we get all the front looks in our camp setting and spring ball setting that we'll get throughout the entire fall.
Go ahead, Jared.
Hey, Coach. I'm just curious. I know it's early, obviously, but I'm just curious about what you've seen from Quay Mays so far and kind of how he fits into the big picture on defense.
Yeah, I think he's going to be a big factor. I do. He's going to play behind Darius there, and I think he's going to allow Darius to maybe move around and play not just the nose, but he might be able to help us play some three if we want to move Dante around a little bit too. But Quay, he's kind of playing himself in shape. I thought today was a better day for him. He really fought through, but he's going to be a big help for him. He's strong when he's in shape. He plays with really low pad level, and he can get push, and that's what we're looking for is some vertical push on the offensive line. But I think he's going to be a really solid player for us.
All right, Coach. That looks like that's it.
All right, good deal. Thank you all.